Hey there, Rolling Hills Church family. I hope each and every one of you are having just a fantastic day. And I'm really excited to hop on here and unpack a few more things that we have been kind of working through and really kind of going through together as a church in the series, Be Holy, specifically as we finished the series with a sin that is a struggle for a lot of us, just in full disclosure, a struggle that we really have to deal with in the area that we live here in Middle Tennessee. And that's this whole concept of greed. And after the services this week, I had a couple of people, kind of make comments to me of, man, we really appreciate you hitting a hard topic, or man, that has to be hard to look at greed. And it is. But the reality is it's also something that's needed. These topics, as challenging as they are, we have to not shy away from them, but really confront them, because greed is something that can take such a root in our lives. And we want to fight against that. And we want to really build a hedge of protection in our life against that. And so there's a concept that I want to kind of dig into a little bit deeper that we didn't really have time to flesh out on Sunday mornings. And it comes right out of the text in Luke chapter 12, this parable that Jesus tells us, this story where a man shouts out in the crowd at Jesus and basically says, I'm owed an inheritance and I haven't received that. So what should I do? And Jesus says, that life is not really all about possessions. And so then Jesus launches into this story, and there's a word in this story that I think we can easily miss. And he says, let me tell you a story to kind of help underscore what happens. He says, there's a rich man. He says this parable. This is in Luke 12, verse 16. The land of a rich man was very productive. And we can look over this story and fail to miss that word, rich man. This is a parable that is really driven towards people who have means, who have maybe some excess, who aren't wanting for anything. And we have to write ourselves into that story. This is a parable for us. I don't have to tell you that just by making a couple $1,000s a year, being even what we would consider above the poverty line from a global perspective, is in the top 2 percentile of wealth across the entire globe. 8 billion people, and so this is written to someone who is not needing anything per se, or who's not struggling financially. And even though I know we all have our struggles, but just statistically speaking, this is a parable that is for us. And he says the land of a rich man was very productive. And when more abundance came his way, instead of choosing to do something more outwardly focused with that, this rich man said, well, I'll just build a bigger barn. And I think we have to challenge ourselves in this to say, is there a standard that I have to live at? Is there a standard that I can live at, to where anything that would come into my life above that standard, above what I know is kind of where I live and what's comfortable for me and my family, do I just have to keep living in excess? Or can I be a conduit to give that away, to trust that God will use that in whatever way He wants to use that? And I think that's the thing about greed, is that greed has to have some guardrails, and we have to be able to build some parameters, and we have to be able to have some non-negotiables that are already set in place, so that when we have abundance, or so when we are blessed even more than we already are, we would be able to say, this is what I want to do with those blessings. I don't know about you, but I've certainly found in my own life, and this is something that we deal with as a family, I've found in my own life that greed is a slippery slope, but it's also something that does not happen overnight. You just start making little concessions here or there, or you get a little bit more, and so you just automatically think that I have to increase whatever standard it is, whether that's housing or cars or just even vacations or the hotels that we would choose to stay at vacations, whatever the case might be. We just continue to up a little bit more here and there, when in reality, I do wonder, what would it look like in our life to say, when more comes, I just kind of want to stop and I want to say, I know I'm content there. And Jesus says that there's a lot that's demanded from someone who doesn't choose to see resources the way that God wants us to see them. Now, ultimately, for the man in this parable, it meant that his livelihood was taken. His life, as we know it, was taken from him. And so this is a cautionary tale that Jesus is giving us, that he's saying, watch out for this slippery slope. And I see this all the time. And again, I've dealt with this, and hopefully this is something that you'll be able to gain traction in your area, in your own life, is to say, when those opportunities come, I have already predetermined what we are going to do. Now, this is something also that I think a lot of us can be really guilty of, is we can couch a lot of things in our life as need, when in reality, they're just wants, and it's a decision that's based on greed. I just continue to accumulate more, not because I need it, but because it's something that I want. I heard someone say recently that we can even camouflage greed as a necessity, just because everyone else is doing this with their kids, or everyone else's family is doing this, or everyone else is choosing to bring this into their life, that I need to do that as well. And I kind of camouflage it. I kind of tell myself a narrative that that's something I need, when in reality, Jesus has told us, and he's trying to get us to understand that those things never truly satisfy. And so that's why this is such a big deal, because it's chasing after a target that never fully satisfies us. It's chasing after a target that never brings us the fulfillment that Jesus promises us to have fulfillment. Jesus promises me that I can have that fulfillment if I hold things the way that he intends for me to hold them, very open-handed, very loosely, and willing to say, Lord, you can do with my life whatever it is that you want to do. And so I hope that this series, this week particularly, I hope that it's been helpful for each and every one of you, and that you'll be able to say, you know what, I have to confront some of these things, because really this whole culmination of the series has been about confronting these things. And so when I'm kind of hit in the face by these struggles that I have, and I'm confronted with it, I'm presented a choice. I have to say, I'm going to choose the path of holiness. I'm going to choose to not be greedy. I'm going to choose to store up treasures in heaven and not here on earth. And that's hard. That's challenging. No one, self-included, is going to tell you that this is easy. And if anybody tells you this is easy, then they're lying to you, because this is not an easy path, but it's a good path, and it's the right path, and it's a path that brings honor to God, and it's a path that brings us fulfillment and joy that can only come from that relationship with Jesus Christ and handling the things that he, in a way that he desires for me to handle them. So I hope that as we've taken just a little bit of a deeper dive into this, that you would be able to take some guardrails, put some guardrails into your life, see these things coming your way before they ever come your way, and have already made a determination that this is what we're going to do if the Lord blesses us, or if more things come into our life. I promise you, there's so much joy, and there's so much hope, and there's so much peace when God is at the center, when God is what we prioritize, and when our own personal wants and desires are secondary. Life really becomes fun and so fulfilling and so meaningful. I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you, church family. I do hope that this series has spoken to your heart, and that you've been changed as a result of maybe confronting some things in your life that were acceptable, or maybe just somewhat normalized, and that you're trusting and seeing that God's going to use you as you gain traction in this area to become ultimately who he yearns for you to be. I hope each and every one of you have a fantastic day, and excited to be on this journey with you. Take care.